All right, let's dive into a book that has genuinely changed millions of lives, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Today, we're going to unpack this incredibly powerful system for getting just 1% better every day. And I'll tell you right now, it has nothing to do with willpower or some sudden burst of motivation. So let's start with something we all know, right? It's January 1st, you are fired up. You've set this huge, ambitious goal, and then somewhere around February, it just fades. Sound familiar? Well, the reason our best intentions almost always seem to fall apart isn't because we're lazy. It's because we're focusing on the completely wrong thing. Now, the author, James Clear, didn't just dream this stuff up. He learned it in the most brutal way imaginable. A horrible baseball accident left him with a severe brain injury. He wakes up in the hospital, totally lost, and a nurse asks him what year it is. He says 1998, but it was 2002. And that was the beginning of a long, painful journey, one that forced him to rebuild his entire life, not with big heroic efforts, but with the tiniest, almost invisible steps. And that slow recovery process revealed the single biggest idea in this whole book. That real, lasting change, the kind that actually sticks, it doesn't come from one big, dramatic moment. It comes from the compounding effect of hundreds of small decisions, of just getting 1% better, day in and day out. Okay, so what does this 1% better thing actually look like in the real world? Well, here's the tricky part, and it's why so many of us quit. At first, the results are basically invisible. You don't see anything happening, so you get discouraged. We expect progress to be a straight line, but that's just not how it works. James Clear uses this perfect analogy. Just picture an ice cube sitting in a cold room. The temperature is slowly creeping up, 1 degree at a time. It goes from 29 degrees to 30 to 31. And for what feels like forever, absolutely nothing happens. The ice cube just sits there, looking exactly the same. But then the room hits 32 degrees. And that one single degree, which felt no different than all the degrees that came before it, triggers a massive transformation. The ice starts to melt. Your habits are exactly like that. You put in the work day after day, and you feel like you're getting nowhere, until one day you cross that invisible threshold and everything changes. This quote just nails the idea. Think about a stonecutter who's just hammering away at a huge rock. 100 times he hits it, and not even a crack appears. But on the 101st blow, the whole thing splits in two. Now, we all know it wasn't that one last hit that did it, right? Of course not. It was the combined pressure of all the hits that came before. That's the power of atomic habits. So, how do we actually start building these tiny habits? Well, first, we've got to understand the engine that's running the whole show. Deep inside our brains, there's a simple 4-step feedback loop that's running on autopilot all day, every day, and it's shaping pretty much everything you do. Let's break this loop down real quick. First, you get a cue. That's the trigger. Say, your phone buzzes. That leads to a craving. You suddenly feel the need to know who texted you, which leads to the response. You pick up your phone. And finally, the reward. Curiosity satisfied. Cue, craving, response, reward. This little loop is the secret blueprint of your entire day. Okay, now here's where it gets really fun. Once you understand that loop, you can start to play with it. You can actually engineer it to work for you instead of against you. For each of those 4 steps, cue, craving, response, and reward, there's a simple law we can use. This is the practical, step-by-step playbook for building good habits and, just as importantly, breaking bad ones. Law number 1 is all about the cue. You have to make it obvious. If you want to build a good habit, the trigger for it needs to be staring you right in the face. We like to think we're in total control, but the truth is, our environment has a huge influence on us. What we see shapes what we do. And here's a kind of weird but absolutely brilliant example of this. To cut down on spillage in the men's rooms, the Amsterdam airport didn't put up a bunch of signs. Nope. They just etched a tiny little picture of a fly inside each urinal. It gave men an unconscious target to aim at, and cleaning costs dropped by 8%. A tiny, obvious cue created a huge change in behavior. Okay, on to the second law, which targets that craving. You gotta make it attractive. The more appealing a habit is, the more our brains are gonna want to do it. It's just simple human nature. We're wired to seek pleasure and rewards. And there's a fantastic technique for this called temptation bundling. The idea is super simple. You pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. For example, maybe you tell yourself, I can only listen to my favorite true crime podcast while I'm on the treadmill. You're bundling the temptation with the habit, making the whole experience way more attractive. Law number 3 tackles the response. And this one is maybe the most important of all. Make it easy. Look, our brains are fundamentally lazy. They're designed to conserve energy. So the more friction, the more effort a habit takes, the less likely we are to do it, especially on a tough day. This is where the 2-minute rule becomes an absolute game changer. You take whatever habit you want to start and you shrink it down until it takes less than 2 minutes to do. So read every night becomes read 1 page. Go for a run becomes put on my running shoes. That's it. The goal isn't to get results right away. The goal is just to master the art of showing up. And that brings us to the 4th and final law, which is all about the reward. You have to make it satisfying. For a habit to really stick, our brain needs an immediate pat on the back. The problem is, with most good habits, the real reward is way off in the future. So we have to find a way to feel successful right now. There's this great story about a young stockbroker who used this perfectly. Every morning, he put 2 jars on his desk. One was filled with 120 paper clips, the other was empty. After every single sales call he made, he would move 1 paperclip from the full jar to the empty one. That simple, visual proof of his progress was instantly satisfying, and it kept him motivated. And in just 18 months, he was bringing in $5 million for his firm. So, okay, we've got the 4 laws. These are the tools. But this is where we get to the real soul of the book. Because the ultimate goal here isn't just to do more things, it's to become someone new. This is the critical shift from focusing on outcomes to focusing on identity. You know, it's so easy to think that building routines and habits will make your life rigid or boring. But Clear argues the exact opposite. He says habits don't restrict your freedom, they create it. Because when you put all the important stuff on autopilot, you free up all this mental energy to be creative, to solve bigger problems, to truly be present. This is the most profound shift you can make. Stop focusing on the outcome. The goal is not to write a novel, the goal is to become a writer. The goal is not to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. It's a subtle change in language, but it changes everything. And this quote right here is the heart of it all. Just think about this. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Every time you do something, you are casting a ballot for your identity. Meditate for 1 minute, you just cast a vote for being a calm person. Put on your running shoes, you just cast a vote for being a runner. These tiny votes are what build the proof of your new identity. And so we'll just leave you with that one simple question. Don't worry about some massive life overhaul. Forget about tomorrow. Just think about right now. In the next few minutes, what is one tiny action you can take? What is the one small vote you are going to cast for the person you are?